All right. Well, just to be mindful of people's time, I think we'll get started. So welcome to May's Sustainability Series. This month, we're happy to host Chris and Alexis from CERTs to talk about opportunities for small businesses to integrate energy efficiency projects and some of the programs and tools that we have available across the state, but also here a little more regionally in Southeast Rochester and specifically Rochester that would benefit folks. So with that, just a little run of show. We typically ask people to be on mute during the presentation. If there are questions that people have, feel free to type them in the chat and I'll wait for the appropriate pause to ask Alexis whatever's in the chat. And at the end, we usually have about 10 or 15 minutes to open it up for more of a conversation kind of Q&A kind of process. So please be mindful of that if possible. And otherwise, take it away, Alexis. Thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad folks could join today. My name is Alexis, and I'm with the Clean Energy Resource Teams, normally at the University of Minnesota Extension St. Paul campus, but still here at my home for a little while longer. Yeah, and as I understand it, there might be some business owners on the line today, but it also might just be folks interested in sustainability in general in Rochester. And that's great because, you know, what I'm going to share today, you can be an advocate for some of these ideas with the businesses you know and love in Rochester and help them be more energy efficient, which will help them be more resilient to those costs and stick around longer, hopefully. So we'll get started here. I need to minimize the video. I love being able to see people, but I'm going to have to just let that go for a little bit while we get through some of these ideas. I'll tell you a bit about CERTs, give you some energy facts for Minnesota, and then we'll walk through an energy efficiency journey for a business, kind of options they have for being more energy efficient, and then talking about some of the funding opportunities. CERTs, if you're not familiar with us, I've got my colleague Chris Meyer on the line today. She is the Southeast CERT Regional Coordinator. And CERTs, we connect individuals in their communities to resources they need to implement community-based clean energy projects. And for us, clean energy includes energy efficiency, renewable energy like solar and wind, and things like energy storage and electric vehicles on charging stations. That's all under this umbrella of clean energy. And we do break up our work in the state across these 7 regions. And Chris Meyer is the person keeping the ear to the ground in Southeast Minnesota and helping projects along. And we are a partnership organization, and I work for the University of Minnesota Extension. And our other 3 partners are Great Plains Institute, the Southwest Regional Development Commission, and the Minnesota's Energy Office. That's part of the Commerce Department. And we help people with hands-on assistance. We try to walk them through what they need to do to get projects done. We provide practical steps to clean energy, like you'll hear today during today's content, and then offer learning opportunities like giving presentations, but also hosting events and writing clean energy stories of things happening throughout the state. You can check out our website for a whole bunch more. And these are our, what we kind of call our target audiences, the types of folks we are trying to help advance clean energy. And as you can see, businesses and organizations are, one of our 8 target audiences. And why are we focusing on Minnesota's businesses? Well, they are making up almost 20% of the energy consumption in the state of Minnesota. This is data from 2018. The others are, residential, transportation, and industrial. But that commercial sector makes up a very big percentage. So it's a good one to keep an eye on and see how we can help. And today I'm talking mostly about the energy use and opportunities for small and medium business types, and specifically of these 6 types: office, grocery or convenience stores, food service like restaurants and bars, retail, and a little bit on education and wholesale types of businesses. And just at a glance here, you can't read every word on this slide, and that's okay, but you can see those numbers, I think, the bold numbers, and it really adds up. Each one of those is some sort of business establishment with a building, with energy use, heating and cooling, and some of them with refrigeration. And it just all really adds up to a whole lot of energy, like we saw on the previous slide. And what does that energy look like, maybe per square foot, for at least 4 of those 6 business types? This shows electricity on the left and natural gas on the right. And each gray dot on the graph here are individual businesses. And then the red box, and they call it whiskers, the 2 lines coming up from the box, gives you kind of more the average use. And so by the gray dots, you can tell it like varies quite a bit, especially for food service, and a little bit for grocery on the electricity side. But you can also see generally like, oh, wow, grocery uses quite a bit of electricity, and food service does too. And then food service is using quite a bit of natural gas for all the cooking equipment. And just you can see how the energy use differs across these 4 business types, small and medium business types. And today's talk is generally drawing from 2 statewide studies. So all of what I'm sharing with you is really specific to Minnesota. And this study did a survey of 1,400 Minnesota businesses, and 45% of them hadn't done an energy focused project in the last 5 years. And 60% of them shared that they also didn't really have plans for future projects. So the opportunities are out there for energy efficiency at Minnesota businesses. Typically, these small to medium-sized businesses are juggling a lot, trying to take care of, every single aspect of their business. And energy doesn't always get attention until sometimes it's absolutely needed, like equipment fails and they got to replace equipment. So there are opportunities. So here are some of the perspectives on energy upgrades. On the left, we've got the reasons businesses are making energy investments, and 30% of them are motivated to save money, the actual energy savings and bill savings when they do an energy efficiency project. Like I mentioned about equipment failure, that's what end of life replacement is. So that makes up a big one for finally taking the leap on those projects. Comfort reasons, heating and cooling related sometimes, or air quality in the case of commercial kitchens. And other can involve, like some of those reasons were security, better lighting and stuff for security and that kind of motivation. And what are some barriers to investments? On the right, you can see 42% together are around money. Either they lack the upfront money to do the work, or they want more specific information about the financial aspect of doing these projects. And the energy saving opportunities, I alluded to it a little bit on that energy use slide. If we take a look at this broken down by the 4 small and medium business types we're kind of focusing on today, the size of the big blue dot is indicative of the opportunity. So either there's a lot of saving opportunities related to that, or the actual savings themselves are really big. So for retail and office, that's mainly around lighting and heating and air conditioning, equipment and controls. And then for food service, it's mostly in the kitchen, and that's not just the cooking equipment itself, but like the ventilation of the kitchen environment, and refrigeration. And then what tops out for grocery is refrigeration. We'll get into that a little bit more here. But here we're looking at business's energy efficiency journey. And you can really get in at any point on this journey. Some businesses have already taken some of these steps and are ready to do some others. Some are willing to just go right into taking action without doing some of the learning aspects. We'll be kind of learning as we go from left to right today. But first on some learning tasks and then taking action, and then CERTs in particular. We love people sharing their successes around clean energy, and you can really do that on any one of these. If you've, you don't have to do like a full remodel to make the news. Sometimes just taking some steps and showing your peers that what you did is possible helps others take action. And so we really encourage that. So the first step on the learning side of things, really understanding what's on the utility bill is helpful to businesses. The Citizens Utility Board hosts these energy bill clinics. And while there was one that was part of Rochester Earth Fest, they are offering these continually throughout the year, and you just can hop on their website to find one of them. They also host them for small business and residential. So if you want to learn more about your home bill too, you can show up to one of these bill clinics, get to have a 20-minute conversation with someone, ask questions about the bill. What are the different charges mean? And just from looking at a bill, the Citizens Utility Board staff members and volunteers can give you some pointers on ways to have energy savings in the building. So that's a really good start. And then next up, a business could look at tracking their own energy use through something called building benchmarking. And so you're tracking it over time. You're doing that to identify ways to save, because you're comparing to yourself over time, and you're seeing, you can kind of learn from the operations and how that affects your energy use, and then make adjustments to your operations or heating and cooling and see how the energy changes. But then there's also the benefit of comparing to others that are similar to you. Maybe another restaurant of similar square footage is using way less, and you want to learn, oh, well, why is that? What's so different about what's going on at that restaurant compared to mine? And it starts to just tip you off to opportunities in a real quantified way. And Rochester, the city of Rochester is hosting and encouraging a building benchmarking program. So definitely tune into what they're doing and join in on that effort if you're a business with a building space that you'd like to keep track of the energy use a little more closely. There's also receiving custom guidance. This is another deeper step on learning in the journey. You can get an energy assessment or audit. And this is where you've got another set of eyes coming into your building, someone who's seen hundreds of other buildings and made recommendations. So they have a really good sense of what's out there and what's available for opportunities on energy savings. Sometimes these are provided by the energy utilities, either the electric or the natural gas. If you're a member of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, you can get a free one from Energy Smart. Nonprofits or places of worship can get a free energy assessment from Interchange. And then another free opportunity would be RETAP. That's the Retiree Environmental Technical Assistance Program hosted by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. And they're a little, I'll be honest, you'd be in line for a while on that one, just because it's with COVID. They especially got their backed up a bit on in-person visits, but that'll be changing soon. And it's a great report about energy, water, and waste saving opportunities. And on the right is just an example of like the kind of findings you might see in a typical energy audit. it'll kind of give you the project idea. It'll tell you the estimated annual savings, maybe the total cost of the project and how long it takes to pay that project back in years, using the energy saving dollars, applying it to the project cost. Some will even identify the rebate money available from the utilities. So next in the journey is starting to take some action, and you can take action without having to dump a lot of money into saving, an energy efficiency project. There are things you can do with your building, today, and start seeing some savings right away. Mostly that is around thermostat setback. So you see on the far left there, there's an opportunity for about 41% savings. And that's really high, but you think about the number of hours that businesses aren't open or on the weekends, particularly when you look at office and other settings like that, it really adds up to a lot of potential savings. So if you even don't have a programmable thermostat, just kind of staying on top of that manual thermostat and setting it back to either lower temps in the winter when you're not in business, or raise it up a couple degrees during the summertime for air conditioning. And then the kitchen exhaust is a really big one. Again, this isn't new equipment. This is just turning stuff off. So, turning off that exhaust fan in a kitchen when there aren't periods of cooking can result in, a lot of savings, maybe up to 20% on just that, part of the electric bill. Not the whole bill, but that particular piece. And then there's lighting, again, just turning lights off manually, and keeping up with HVAC maintenance. So this might be one where you have to pay a technician to come and do the maintenance to your HVAC, but even keeping up with your own, filter change out, that kind of maintenance can really add up in savings across the whole year. And similar to that on this next slide with 5 more ideas is refrigeration maintenance. So again, you might have to pay a technician to come out and do a little coil cleaning or refrigerant charge, but look at those savings, up to 14% savings just on refrigeration. You can also tweak refrigeration lighting, making sure those lights are turned off overnight, and managing other equipment like computers or other devices that are plugged in, and just keeping an eye on that energy use a little more closely. And this is all that same info from the last 2 slides, but rearranged by the top 3 for each business type within small and medium businesses. So in red here, you can see that the number 1 usually, or at least in the top 3 thing you can do for no or low cost savings are thermostat setback. We're cold climate in Minnesota, every degree counts there for energy savings. Now we're moving into do-it-yourself, low-cost devices. So this is where you're going to put out a little bit of money, but save a lot of money. So that first one is the next step on thermostats is upgrading to a smart thermostat. So if you have a manual thermostat, I would say it's absolutely going to be recouping your costs to upgrade to a smart thermostat, and that's where it's you can access it with Wi-Fi, or even it learns the occupancy of the building and it adjusts itself to dial back and turn back on. But we're looking at a lot of savings here. Again, from those 2 very specific Minnesota studies, it could be about $1,700 of savings in food service establishments, or anywhere from $500 to $800 in the typical retail, grocery, or office. And make sure you're looking for an Energy Star logo when buying these kinds of devices in general, but particularly for the thermostat, to make sure that it is been tested for really good performance and that reliable energy savings. And then similarly on the right, I'm going to talk about lighting next, but this other certification, Design Lights Consortium, does the the same thing, but for lighting. So that's another thing to keep an eye out for. So for lighting, doing it yourself, you could be working on bulb by bulb as they burn out, changing out the tube lights to LEDs from fluorescent. This can also be done in refrigeration units. And with this, the little tip I want to give here is it really depends on the ballast too. So that's like another electronic component with the lighting, not just the lamp itself, but a little box that is with the fixture. It needs to be compatible with the bulb you're buying. So you just have to do that little bit of research. And the other thing to consider is the ballast age. If you have already got, 50 or 80,000 hours or more, on that ballast, it might be worth just changing out the whole fixture anyways. So those are things to weigh on this particular low cost taking action kind of item, but you do get some savings right away, 40% over any fluorescent tube that you change back, and a really quick payback in under a year usually. Some more low-cost devices are around water. Again, for these water-efficient devices like faucet aerators or pre-rinse spray valves, those are in the commercial kitchens in the dishwashing area to kind of give the plates a clean off before they go into the dishwasher. You'd be looking for that water sense label. And again, that is tested, performance and quality and energy savings. And these things don't cost too much, but you get, savings right away, and they really add up for the pre-rinse spray valve in particular, up to maybe $400 per year savings. Hot water pipe insulation. This doesn't need to go everywhere. Luckily you can just put it on the first 5 or 6 feet from the water heater. You can put it elsewhere too, but that's where the energy savings are more calculated from and known, and small cost, a little bit smaller savings at $60 per year. These are the pipe insulations available at most hardware stores. A couple more do-it-yourself items are smart power strips. So these have usually like one outlet that's controlled by one device, and the other outlets follow the lead of that first outlet. They're a little bit longer payback on those, but this one too is kind of like, could be a make your life easier thing as well. You get to shut one thing off and a bunch of other stuff shuts off, so there's time savings for yourself to think about with smart power strips. And vending misers, lots of small and medium businesses have vending machines. Office spaces, some retail, even grocery stores will have, pop machine or two on the way in or out. And that you've got some really quick and easy savings by installing one of these occupancy sensors on a vending machine. All right, next up is equipment change outs for taking action. And this is—
Alexis, we had one question that came in.
Can
you explain how the smart power strip works and how it's different than a traditional one?
Yeah, so a traditional one would just have, anywhere from 5-7 outlets available on a single strip like that. Almost all have surge protection. That's something you'd want to look for, because that's an added benefit, is just making sure if lightning strikes or there's some sort of anomaly in the electric lines, that your equipment is protected from that surge protection. So that's pretty universal, but something to check for. And then with a regular power strip, things are plugged in and out, and the whole power strip could be turned off with a single switch. That's not a bad step to take either. But the smart power strip, there's 2 versions. There's one that literally just has kind of a master plug, and the others that follow the lead. So whatever's happening on that master plug. The 2 instances that are most installed is with desktop computers and multiple monitors, maybe some speakers. So you've got your computer plugged into the main one, and then the monitors, the speakers, any extra equipment that only needs to be on when the computer is on goes in the other ones. And then when the computer is shut off, it shuts the other items off. They're not still plugged in and having those little, lights running all night long. There's another version up, and that's this $40 one that is more programmable. It actually comes with like a software program that you can, see the energy savings and program it a little bit more. So with equipment, this is more, now we're getting outside of the low cost stuff. This is going to be in the hundreds to thousands of dollars kinds of equipment and projects. And this is where you're likely to be hiring out a contractor to help you with the project or to supply the equipment. When you're working with contractors, here's just a few tips. It's always great to get a few bids, maybe 3, to really learn your equipment options and see kind of more itemized items of the quote and learn more about what's going to be involved in the project and what those different things cost. And just to know your range of costs and what's going to work for you and your budget. You also want to make sure that contractors are licensed, bonded, or certified to perform the work you're hiring them for. And your contractor could or should do this for you, but you can do it too. And that's check with the utility before getting started for any rebates. Not only to know about that money that you could be saving by doing a project, but there might be certain requirements of the equipment or the contractor in order to receive that rebate. And so you want to make sure you're kind of checking off those boxes and getting the rebate money if you can. And prioritize Energy Star equipment again. And now I'm going to walk through some equipment that showed up in those studies and as highest energy savings for the different business types we've been talking about today. Now, this is RTU here stands for rooftop unit, and that's what's pictured at the right. It's very large. It's a, smaller than a Mr. Bean car, a Mini Cooper. Okay, it's like very small, but it's large like that on top of roofs. Usually flat surfaced commercial buildings, and typically with food service, office, and retail, and grocery too. But so this is the unit on the right, and the equipment I'm talking about here is not the whole unit. I'm talking about just the controls to keep that unit operating only when it needs to operate and operating, efficiently. And just by adding controls, that's the number. I'll be generally showing you like the top 5 equipment saving opportunities. And for retail, it's the number 1 thing retail could do is add controls to their rooftop units. And for office and food service, it's number 3 and number 4. And you can see the savings sit around $2,000 per year for each of these business types, typical and on average. And most businesses, have this opportunity. In food service, 2 out of 3 restaurants could be doing this. In office, 1 out of 4, and in retail, about half of the retail establishments could be doing this and getting these kinds of savings. Refrigeration is another one to focus in on. Lots of energy use there, and this is in the grocery and convenience store, small and medium business type. So the actual equipment that can be added are the second, third, and fourth top energy savers for grocery and convenience. And grocery stores could be adding doors to open refrigeration units. They could be doing anti-sweat heater controls, very specific thing, but it's a piece of equipment that can be added on. And then this fourth one is electronically commutated motors. All that is like a motor for the refrigeration unit that is more variable. It's not just on or off. It can go at different speeds, and it's adjustable. And so any one of those are looking in that, again, this time $2,600 to $3,000 savings per year. And over half of the grocery stores out there have this as a potential opportunity. And we already talked about low or no cost savings, but I just want to remind you, like the number one way that grocery and convenience stores can be saving energy is just maintaining their refrigeration units, back to that low, no cost option. And in commercial kitchens, so food service, restaurants and bars and such, the number one energy saving item is demand controls for ventilation. So again, not necessarily changing out that whole hood above the cooking area, but adding controls to it so that it's operating only when it needs to. It can maybe slow the fan down or increase the fan based on the amount of smoke being generated. And this is a lot of savings per year, maybe $5,000 savings per year. And 2 out of 3 restaurants could be doing this and getting those savings. Number 2 for food service was the rooftop unit tune-up and maintenance. But the number 3 for equipment is the hot water heater replacement. Commercial kitchens, they're doing a ton of dishwashing, so it's a lot of hot water use and therefore a lot of savings opportunity. And a lot of restaurants could be implementing more efficient water heaters. 3 out of 4 have that opportunity. And is this my last one? Yeah, the last equipment to cover is called lighting time clocks in the energy world, but basically it's adding timers to the lighting so that they are turning off at certain times. So maybe a business closes and then 3 or 4 hours later, a cleaning crew comes through. That happens quite a bit in the office space. Well, the lighting doesn't need to be on for those 3 or 4 hours. So, putting a time clock on to turn them back on before the cleaning crew comes through is a great way to see about $1,000 per year in savings. And for retail and office, both have about 3 out of 4 of the establishments have this as an opportunity. Now, remodel or capital investments. So this is the most intensive action on that journey, energy efficiency journey for small and medium businesses. This is where maybe a very major piece of equipment like the HVAC needs to be replaced. And we're talking about something more in the tens of thousands of dollars, or the equipment I just talked about. Maybe the business is choosing to replace multiple pieces at once. Or even a single equipment type that we talked about, but it adds up. So like adding refrigeration doors, you probably want to kind of do that all at once. And that's about $125 per linear foot of refrigeration units. And across a grocery store, that's going to really add up. Similarly, LED lighting, yeah, they're only $14 a lamp, and that can be affordable for you to do like over time and as you go. But if you wanted to do all at once and have it the same type of lighting and just kind of do it all at once, that would be also, add up to a pretty penny. And then just to keep in mind that sometimes we're remodeling for purposes other than energy savings, just kind of freshening up the place or doing painting everywhere or changing out the tables in a restaurant or something. And if there's an opportunity when the business is closed for that kind of remodeling to see what can be done for energy efficiency and really prioritize those improvements because they pay back, So anytime you're doing this level of taking action, you're probably wondering, well, how in the world am I going to pay for that? There are the utility rebates, as I've talked about throughout, but there's also this financing mechanism called PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy. And it's a way to finance energy efficiency and renewable energy upgrades. It's repaid as an item on the property tax assessment. And it's a great way to, start saving right away, have someone else pay the upfront capital cost and then make payments over time. And because of the county, the tax payment timing, you're typically getting those savings before you even have to make your first payment, which is great. And this example on the right is new construction and some new hotels that were financed, their energy aspects were financed with PACE financing. And here's an example of not a new project, but a restaurant that decided to do a handful of things: the lighting, the hood vent, and some controls on that hood. Decided to use PACE program and utility rebates. Their whole project tallied up to nearly $40,000, and they'll get to see $5,500 in savings every year. And just this business owner, thought PACE was a great way to finance the project. I mentioned that PACE is good for energy efficiency and renewable energy. They'll also do electric vehicle charging too, cover some of that kind of financing. And you can learn a lot more at the CERTs website /PACE. And there's a bunch of other, so like I said, I was drawing from Minnesota specific studies, and Minnesota has also done studies on these very specific business related energy use and saving opportunities. So things like compressed air systems and clothes dryer, data centers, hotel pools, all sorts of very specific energy efficiency opportunities. So happy to talk about those if anybody, specifically offline. And last up on the journey, or throughout, or anytime, is sharing your success, telling your story about taking these energy efficiency actions. Energy efficiency doesn't get quite as much, glamour and attention as like solar panels do. So it's always good to tell your story about energy efficiency when you can, to keep reminding others that it's a great way, great step to take, especially before renewables. And any one of these 4 along the bottom, I'm sure would love to share in telling that story too. And CERTs would. These are a couple examples of stories CERTs has told around this small business and organization sector. And just reach out to us if you'd like help in telling your story. And lastly, here's some contact information for us. We're always happy to help think about the projects, talk through the options, and things like that.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexis.
Yeah.
I really like this presentation because I think a lot of this stuff is actionable and provides pretty clear guidance to businesses on where to start, things to look at if they haven't looked at, and the resources that they need in order to get in touch with what those things are and where they can find them. So thanks for working so hard on it. It's really great.
Yeah. And I do have that we still have a little more time, I see, and we can, talk more openly or see what other people are thinking. I do have a couple of resources I was gonna pull up and share. One is a tip sheet. It's like things that a business can do, those low cost and no cost actions. It's kind of a checklist. So if you have your own business, I'll put it in the chat as a file. And then, or if you frequent a business that you love and just want to nudge them along to think about energy, those are the free and easy things they could be doing to save on energy. And you could just share the printout with them. And then similarly, I'll share a link to the PACE website. There's a PACE handout that can be downloaded, and that's a good one to share with businesses. And if there's time while we're discussing, I'll try to find the Spanish language version of that one as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be sure to include those too in the email I send out afterwards as well. So
okay, great.
Sounds perfect. Yeah, with that, if there are questions from the group that are tuning in, feel free to unmute and let's converse a little bit. So there's a note about individual metering. Ray, is that in regards to a particular space type? What's the background for that?
I'm not sure if Ray wants to share more about that, but one thing that businesses contend with is the landlord-tenant split incentive. So some businesses operate in a space and they may not own that space, but they might pay the utility bill. And therefore, because they pay a utility bill, they have access to utility rebate programs, which is great. But they might feel like some of what they can do is a little limited because they shouldn't make certain types of capital improvements to the building at all or without the permission of the landlord. But I try to tell those folks, like, any equipment you would take with you, you could have control over. So some restaurants, like some of their cooking equipment, they would be able to make decisions around that. And lighting, I'm pretty sure, is also up for grabs. When it gets to heating and cooling, that's where the landlord and the business tenant need to talk and make decisions together, probably.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Alexis. There's a lot of stuff flying through the chat now, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question.
Yeah, the one about reaching out to local businesses in Rochester.
Yeah, I could probably answer that. I don't know if Chris or yourself have other information too, so feel free to jump in. I think it's going okay, I guess is how I would characterize it, but I think it's a really good question for this group on what more should we be doing, and also an enlistment of some assistance from this group. We're doing as much as we can to try to reach out to businesses, and a lot of people are taking us up on it, and specifically kind of thinking about the benchmarking program that we have available now that Lauren's leading for the city of Rochester. But admittedly, we know there's a lot of people out there that could use this information, that would benefit from it, that don't understand benchmarking, that don't have the time to worry about energy conservation projects. And those are the folks that we really want to be working with and helping connect to the varying resources that are available across the state, and also here through our utilities at Rochester Public Utilities and Minnesota Energy Resources. So our benchmarking program continues to grow, but we'd love to get more people involved, and also more people actually acting upon the energy conservation tips and strategies that Alexis pointed out today. I mean, that's really what we're after, right? Benchmarking is great, but the greenhouse gas savings come from the energy conservation projects themselves. So we would be, any insight or comments from the group here on other things to try, or connections that they have that they could link us up with, we'd be more than open to take them up on. And if an email is more appropriate to do that, we could do that as well. So open invitation there. There's another question in here around strategies for businesses that have to leave their computers on overnight for upgrades. Alexis, do you have a response to that? If not, I have some tools that might be applicable for them.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't see that one. That is a thing. That is a common communicated barrier to turning off computers overnight. So that's where you need to have a conversation with IT, and especially like in an office building, come to some sort of agreement of whether or not that's really needed or true. A smart power strip, you can use, schedule it to turn off at 7 p.m. or something, and maybe that gives IT 2 more hours to push out updates. Or maybe you agree upon one night a week, and maybe that's different for different departments, that it does get left on overnight, and that's when IT pushes everything out. So those are some of the ideas I've heard around that. Do you have any others, Kevin?
Energy Star actually has some good guidance on businesses that are looking to do exactly this, and like patches and other IT specific language and tools that people should be or can use in order to kind of get around this very issue. So I'll try to find it in the chat here and put it in the chat if I'm able to find it, April. And if not, I'll make sure I include in the email I send afterwards with the recording and slides and other information.
And to circle back on Ray's chat about individual metering, and then he said there are several on the market now, information on the phone about instant usage. So now I know more about what Ray's talking about. Not to push any one brand or anything, but I'm aware of Schneider Electric has this device that basically gets installed at the breaker box. So while the whole building might only have one meter, if you have like, several circuits headed off to your business or office space, you could have this communicating device, like it reads the energy current and then it communicates it out to a tool. So it's basically like a way to sub meter without installing a new meter from the utility, but it's with using electric devices that an electrician has to install, I believe. It's something I looked at when I was like part of a big, office building in downtown Minneapolis, part of a former job, trying to figure out just our company's energy use. E-gauge is another option, it says. Also, Sense is a good residential sub-meter system. That's good to hear.
I just installed a Sense meter myself, not to push a particular product, but Drew Larson put me onto it, who's on the call too.
Nice.
And if you're an energy nerd, it's quite a bit of information to act upon. So.
How long have you had it installed, Kevin? Is it picking up all your appliances yet, or is it still learning everything?
It's still learning. It's probably picked up 10 or 12 appliances that I use every day and got them correct. So it uses kind of like, for other folks, it uses kind of just compares the usage in your home to others that they've also used, and kind of machine learning approach. So it's pretty impressive what they've been able to pick up. Like we have a coffee machine. It knows that just based on the time of day, but also kind of the load that it draws. A garage door opener it was able to pick up on. We don't open our garage very much, but so that was pretty impressive. But yeah, so far I'm intrigued, and it's providing some good information for us. So
did you put it in yourself, or did you hire somebody to do it?
I asked Drew to help me. So.
Okay, no incrimination there. I'm always curious because we have homeowners that ask us what our opinion is on it. We're an electrical contractor, so we're kind of like, you should probably hire somebody to do it. But I know the videos online say it's easy enough to do yourself, which I guess that's different for everybody. But cool.
Yeah, the instructions are pretty simple, and it basically tells you to just shut down power to the whole panel, which makes sense. And once you do that, it's relatively straightforward, I think. Any other questions from folks? Questions for Alexis? Any other resources she mentions? Connections folks want to make? There's another recommendation in the chat around a different hardware platform for a whole panel plus sub-cabinet metering. I find it hard to believe we offered a presentation for 40 minutes with 0 questions or anything. But I don't want to hold people here. Chris, are you about to chime in?
I was going to say on the comment from Dave, the Emporia system is, I have one of those too. I'm obviously an energy nerd here. I do solar panels. So that one is cool because it has separate meters for every circuit in your house. So you put those CTs that you put on your panel around the main wires. It has like 20 of those that it comes with. And so you can individually measure each circuit in your home. So you know, hey, I consume 2 kilowatt hours with my upstairs bathroom outlets, or whatever the case may be. So it's not as sophisticated as a Sense. It's not going to tell you what those appliances are, but if you know how your house is wired, and if the sticker in the panel that says where all the wires go on all the different breakers, if that's correct, then you can really dive into and get really good analysis on where all your energy is going, which again, it's not as cool as Sense. It's not going to tell you your TV was on for 40 hours last month, but you'll be able to kind of back into the same information with a system like that. So, and it's quite a bit cheaper. I think I got mine for like $100 on Amazon, so it wasn't costly at all. And yeah, I use it and I measure pretty much every circuit in my house, and I know what making coffee costs me. I know what cooking dinner costs me. I know what all those different things are consuming from an app. So it's really cool that if you're into that kind of stuff, that you can get that, and it's not that expensive and it's easy to put in. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Alexis, there's one more question in here around the hot water pipe installation.
Yeah. I say, yes, if you have spare insulation, put it beyond, 4 to 6 feet. The 4 to 6 feet comes, right from the energy savings calculations that utilities use when they offer that item, say for free even to customers, or that's typically where it's used. I don't think there are any utility rebates for the $2 pipe installation. Usually it's offered free during some sort of commercial outreach effort. But yeah, you can put it elsewhere. And I think it's because it's so close to the heater, a lot of times those pipes are leading upward from the heater. And so basically the thinking there is it's heating the water. It's left the hot water heater to some degree. It can travel up the pipe, and so by insulating that, it just kind of offers one more kind of buffer layer to keeping it from kicking back on. Or like if that area isn't insulated and it cools off, the cold likes to drop, right? So that cold slug could like drop back into the tank and remix, and then the heater wants to kick back on. I think that's a little bit of why you're insulating a pipe section. But yeah, while I gutted my house, again, this isn't business related, but when I gutted my house, like pretty much most of the hot water pipes are insulated all the way to the faucet, so that I can really, turn the faucet on and off and still have warm enough water. It doesn't cool down so quick. So that's almost more of a comfort thing and a lifestyle thing than it is energy savings necessarily.
Awesome. Any final questions or comments for Alexis, Chris, or anyone else? All right, hearing none. Thanks, Alexis, for your help. Well, here we go.
What research has been done on heat pump water heaters in kitchens? And I'm assuming, Drew, you mean commercial kitchens. So heat pump heat pump water heaters in general, heat pumps in general, air source heat pumps use the air outside the equipment to compress and either create heat or cooling. It's a refrigeration unit. So generally, if you have an air source heat pump water heater in a conditioned space, you're kind of just pulling from that conditioned air that you've put energy into creating whatever condition it is, cool or hot. And then it, technically that heating or cooling system has to make up that temperature that air source heat pump just pulled from. So it's a little better if the air source heat pump is, located in a less conditioned space, or a closet that's not as conditioned. Well, maybe not a closet, but a space that's not as conditioned. Drew, you probably actually know more about this than me, I'm guessing, but it is a space, a thing that Minnesota has looked at and has figured out that it's good for residential spaces. I don't think Minnesota's kind of drawn a conclusion on air source heat pump water heaters for commercial yet. I haven't checked the guidance on that lately.
I have seen applications of a similar setup where there are heat exchangers attached to compressors that were for the refrigeration units in commercial kitchens. So they were taking the waste heat from those compressors and exchanging that with a water heater. So there might be, right, just placing a water heater in a room with all the compressors for the refrigeration units would essentially do the same thing with a heat pump without having the additional infrastructure of the heat exchanger itself. So there's likely some opportunities for that too. So yeah, Dave's mentioning it too. So great minds, Dave. But yeah, good. That was a good question for sure. All right,
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
I think too I think there's an opportunity there, right? But in the kitchens, I think the water heater equipment replacement was like maybe number 3, maybe number 4 out of 5 that a kitchen could do. There's I would say that's good for a kitchen that's maybe done all the other things, but like we have so many businesses that have so many opportunities to really like focus in on some of those thermostat setbacks and, you know, the big savings that apply to a lot of people. But, you know, each individual restaurant, let's say, as they work their way down that list of priority, you know, they might get to that heat pump water heater question someday, but they've probably got some other bigger fish they should be tending to first.
Fish to fry.
Yes.
Put it
in the restaurant.
Yeah. And with that lame joke, just wanted to thank everybody for being here and tuning in. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to get in touch with me and I can pass them along to Alexis or Chris, but I also feel like they're likely comfortable with you reaching out as well. I will share the video and presentation slides and other resources from today. But mostly just wanted to thank everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next month for another exciting presentation. So thank you.
Great. Have a good day, everyone.